Dr. Rebecca Brandstetter here with another episode of Coffee Break School Psychology. Per usual, I have the coffee. I would like to first check in on the most important question. Does my guest have coffee? Indeed. All right. That's step one. We're in business. Step two is for me to introduce you to one of my good friends and colleagues, Dr. Javarte Bobino, who is an expert in supporting foster youth. And so, as teachers, school psychologists, and even parents out there listening, these tips are going to be fantastic for you to support these students. So, first off, I just want to say hello and welcome. I hope you're caffeinated and ready.
I am very caffeinated. We'll see if I'm ready.
Fantastic. So tell our listeners here who you are and how you got into this work.
Well, awesome. I'm Javarte Bobino, Dr. Bobino, Dr. B to some of the young people I work with. I'm a school psychologist. I've been a school psychologist. It was it's almost like 20 years now, huh? Oh, wow. That goes by really quick. And also a licensed educational psychologist here in the Bay Area. And also a director of a TRIO program here in the Bay Area as well. I have I got into this work because when I when I was in college, um, I took a a deviance class in psychology, like my junior year, and I was like, I'm changing my major.
It was called Deviance.
Yeah, deviance of psychology.
Wow,
And
that's
I was
quite a
like,
title.
right. I was like, ooh, and I took the class and I loved it. And I was like, I'm changing my major. And uh, and being able to like go out into the world and support my community, especially um, young people who look like me, people who've been through some of the similar has the similar background as myself is this is important because it's kind of I have the opportunity to understand it from an educator point of view, but also as a person who's been through a lot of experiences. So I have a learning disability, so I assess for learning disability. I'm a former foster youth, so I understand how to work with young people who have been in foster care. So I understand it on multi levels, right? Um, so that's empowering. And it's a way to kind of really connect with people faster as well, right? So we can kind of get to build that therapeutic alliance really quickly. So it's being able to support that way is something that's really important for
I love that. And I think, I don't know, a lot of helping professionals kind of get into this field for those reasons. I heard a quote, and I can't remember who it is, but where I get all sources of wisdom on Instagram, that you can take your wound and make it medicine for everyone. And so
me.
I love that because you are both, understanding what it's like on one side, but also from a professional being able to support others. So let's talk about foster youth. So I'm going to kick you off with we're going to learn sort of three things in this episode about foster youth. What is the first thing that you think is really important for, and let's say educators to know? Like I've had situations before where a teacher comes to me as a school psych and is like, I've got a new kid. I don't know where they came from. I know nothing about them
Oh,
other than they
wow.
came from the foster youth program. And like, what do I do? Like, can you tell us a little bit about the experience of foster youth in the transitions that they experience?
Yeah. I mean, that educator is who comes to you is ahead of the game, and most educators don't find out a foster youth is a foster youth until they're already been there for a while, and so a
Really?
lot of times foster youth get falls between the cracks when it comes because they change it so often. The records may come in later than what's needed to be to place that student, and when that happens, often records can even get lost, right? So I know in the past a few times I have foster youth students um, who are missing whole years or semesters of grades because and then you get to their senior year and they're ready to graduate and they're like, well, you don't have the grades because your ninth grade, we don't know where your ninth grade grades are, we don't know where your 10th grade grades are, we don't have anything. So now the student is in credit recovery and then also trying to take a full load their senior year and trying to so they can graduate and it's really important that they graduate because if they don't they may never graduate because they're going to be so deflated like, oh, I I worked this hard to get through school, and I transferred from this school, and I had to go through all of these things. Why? I don't care. So they throw their hands up. They throw their hands up. So it's really important that uh, um, teachers and that anyone at the school really contact the liaison, the foster youth liaison at their district when they suspect a student may be in foster care or a foster youth that transfer into their schools. Really take a look at if they have the records there to look at it to see that. If they don't have the records there, that may be a hint in itself that something's going on, and you really want to make sure you reach out to that foster youth liaison in your district.
Yeah, I don't even think I knew when I first started out that there was a foster youth liaison in my district. So that's an action step that folks out there can take is there a foster youth liaison in the district? And it's so interesting to me that, kids can land in a teacher's classroom and they can go months and months and months or and never know really that
Mhm.
a student is a foster youth. And that seems like really important context. So are there like privacy issues at play here? Like what is that about?
Yeah, you have to you and you cannot divulge a student's personal information. You still need that you need to have to go through the proper channels. But as a district, there are information there are codes on. I know here we use something called Aries, and there's every district has their things, and there are codes inside like Aries or whatever platform that you may use that lets you know what status a student is. So sometimes you may have an S code, and S code is when a student is in special education, or you may have some other type of code that will allow you to know what status a student is, and you also have those codes for foster youth when it's known. Again, it has to be known, and usually the ones that are known like that are the ones that have some case manager that's actually following up, or foster parents that are very actively engaged. It's just the ones that don't have that that's sometimes could be an issue, and normally what you will find is that there's so much lacking, missing information. So when you go to their CUME files, or if you go to the area system or whatever system that's used in their district, you'll see so much information and so many holes, and they be so spotty that should be a cue with itself to kind of try to dig for more.
Okay, so let's say that a teacher or school psychologist or whomever is working with a student finds out, but maybe the student even divulges, like, yes, actually, I'm in foster care, or I'm living with so and so now, and I'm not living with my parents. Um, how should teachers approach privacy? This is really our second tip around privacy. Like, I'm trying to imagine what it's like to be a youth just dropped into a classroom with a new family, new school, new everything. Like, do I really want to share that with my teacher? Like, what's at play here?
So you really want to check in with the youth and how comfortable they are with divulging their status, right? Some youth don't care; they're fine with it. Other youth may care a little bit more because they don't want to be stigmatized about what it means to foster, be in foster care. Personally, I didn't want people to know that when I was growing up. I didn't think um, it shouldn't be the first way someone interacted with me, and of course, we all want empathy and things like that, but we don't want people um, to pathologize us based off of our experience, right? And so it's really important to check in with that foster youth about their status and how much that and of course, and this is more older, high school, middle school age students. The younger ones may not have any thoughts or concerns around it because they're pretty young, but you want to give them as much grace and much time as possible to kind of share with you what they want to share.
That kind of gets us to our third tip about, prioritizing relationship building with students. Talk to me a little bit about how educators out there we're all, we're educators, we're great at prioritizing relationships. Is there any sort of special sauce around prioritizing relationships with foster youth?
So with foster youth, and again, this is all general, right? So each foster youth is going to be a little bit different. The relationship is going to be a little harder than others, but because of some of them go through constant transitions, it's really hard for them to build consistent relationships, right? Um, so they want to see that you're actually going to be the person that you say you are, and make sure you are actually going to be there and be consistent, because the attachment it's either going to be really quick or it's going to be really hard. And if you have to detach, it's going to be really rough. And often what happens is that as educators, especially if we don't know the students in the foster youth, or even if we do know that they're a foster youth, we want something from them, right? We want to take something. We want them to follow our directions, give to our relationship, come into our community, and follow and do everything the way we want. But we didn't put anything into them, right? Often before we withdraw, we have to deposit, right? So we have to, and then the way we deposit is building a relationship with them. It's about being there and being consistent, and about not only um, interacting with them when they do something wrong, but also when they're doing things that are positive and they're doing things that are beneficial to the community. How do we show that we see that and that we value that so often? So giving those compliments, check-ins with them, saying, I noticed that you did this awesome thing today. You were really engaged. You did these things like before we really try to take out and be like, well, can you do this more? Or can you, we're asking them to like, I want you to join this club and be a part of all these things. And they're like, I don't know you. Like, who are you? Why should I trust you? Where all these other adults who were supposed to take care of me and have my best interest in mind couldn't put it together to do that. So I'm just supposed to expect that you're that person that can do that. So we got to deposit into these young people first before we try to withdraw.
I love that analogy. It's money in the bank that you can withdraw later with the relationship. And we know, as school psychologists and educators, that the research on resilience, which is that one caring adult can change the life trajectory of a student. And so it's actually very important and powerful to think about that, this being a stable presence in the student's life and not just focusing on deviance, as your
I
course
know,
called
right?
it, but focusing on what's strong, what do they
Mhm.
bring to us? I think that's a really beautiful message. So we also like to end our coffee break, school psychologies, with a quick espresso shot of knowledge, if you will. Is there a resource or a place that if you're educators out there, or even parents of or foster parents, like, I know that the school's a resource, but are there other resources that you would recommend for supporting foster youth?
Yeah, there are a few resources. So I know in Alameda County, and they should have similar programs nationwide. There is programs like Beyond Emancipation. Beyond Emancipation supports foster youth as they transition from being foster youth, right? So when they go into the world, it helps them with getting jobs and housing, which is one of the biggest things. Um, our biggest difficulties that a lot of foster youth have is like, now I'm grown and I don't have anywhere to go because now I'm not connected to my bio family anymore. Or I may have to go to a bio family that I have not had any connections with because at all, and I don't know them. And maybe I didn't have the best relationship with my foster family, so they don't feel any obligations to take care of me after 21 years old or after 18 years old. They don't feel any obligations to continue care. So programs like Beyond Emancipation, where is really good. While students are in high school, a really good program. Our programs are TRIO programs. And like I said, I'm a director of a TRIO program. I was a part of a TRIO program when I grew up, and in particular was Upper Bound. And why I say this is good is because when a student is a part of a TRIO program or Upper Bound program, that even when they move high schools, they're still a part of that program. So they have a home base, right? So they have something that's consistent, people who are consistent to check in with them. For me, that was really critical. Like, okay, I can go to this school, or I can go to this school. I can have this caseworker, I can have whatever, but I still had a consistent program that was there to support me. They even had summer housing. So you stayed in the dorms during the summertime. And that was really big for me because it was like, oh, I got my own room, or I got a room I could share with just, one other person. That was like the hook for me. So for a lot of our foster youth who like, oh, I get to kind of be um out of that foster home if it's not a good situation, um or I have some kind of independence I can get. Pro Trio programs are great for that, and it helps with the consistency. So
I
those
love
two, Beyond Emancipation and Trio programs are great.
We'll drop those links in the show notes below. Javarte, this has been an amazing. You've dropped so much knowledge and so much wisdom on us. My cup is full of coffee and hope for all of the foster youth out there and the educators and adults who care for them. I think this has been a really valuable coffee break channel for us, and I really appreciate you coming. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, everyone. See you on the next episode.